Live, SIMA's newest way of connecting with our members, showcasing and highlighting our members from across the US and Canada. We're joined today by Mark Polinato. Yeah, thank you. I was afraid I might butcher that. So we're joined by Mark, VP of Ops for over 25 years with Oak Ridge Landscape Contractors, based out of the Hamilton, Ontario, Canada area. We're excited to be chatting with Mark today about his experience in the snow industry and sharing it with you. I first, though, want to apologize for those who were hoping to connect with us on LinkedIn or on Facebook. We're having some technical issues with the platform we use. So we're trying to get it up and live via YouTube onto those channels. So if you'll bear with us, be patient, and join us over on YouTube, we'd appreciate it. But we'll repost this for those of you who may miss us in the live setting, and we'll go from there. So Mark, welcome to Snow Ops Live, and thanks for joining me.
I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you, Evan. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So Oak Ridge Landscape, we reached out to them because they had an award winner this year in the space around operations. Mark runs an impressive operation, and Canada, unlike the U.S., has received a lot more snow as of late. So you're someone that's dealing and battling with it for 6, 7, 8 months out of the year. So again, thanks for joining us, and I'm excited to get started.
Thank you. Thank you.
So at the end of every episode, we ask previous guests to provide us with a question for our next guest. So without knowing, Jeremy Darling, our last guest, left me with this question for you, Mark. Sure. With all the information and consideration around environmental concerns, climate change, sustainability, especially it becoming more popular here in the U.S. I know it's been something that's been focused on in Canada maybe for a little longer. But how do you educate and get that value across to your customers and to your clients while also tackling the emergency response side of snow removal and the overall cost of running a business?
So what we do is we maintain, let me give you a little bit of background of Oak Ridge Landscape. So we are 150 staff servicing roughly 75 to 100 properties throughout Southern Ontario, ranging anywhere from Toronto, I'll say the big cities, Toronto, Niagara Falls, and then we stretch into London. So different parts of the city, or I should say province, receive obviously more snow. There's certain areas called snow belt areas that would receive greater amounts of snow than others. So what we do through these 75 to 100 properties, we have various property managers, property owners that we deal with. And the first thing we want to do is educate them with, like this question's been asked, on the environmental impacts that the products we use, how it affects their properties. We all know, typical rock salt, what it does to vehicles, what it does to roads, what it does to buildings. And we often get a lot of requests. How can we reduce the amount of damage to the building, to obviously the pavement, the vehicles, things of that nature? And we investigate with the helps, obviously, of SIMA, of course. We use that as a platform to educate ourselves. But what we do is we send out a monthly, I guess you would call it, it would be like a newsletter, but we call it a month-end report, okay? So a month-end report would be sent to every single property manager, illustrating the conditions of the site. Okay, but we also put at the bottom, we put a do you know section. So do you know, for example, about brine? What are certain effects brine has to the environment, how it can benefit your property? So it's more or less through a monthly newsletter or month-end report that is sent out to every single property manager every month. And it's not the same thing. There's different topics. And then from that, it usually sparks Evan managers to reach out to me or reach out to one of our site superintendents, one of their contacts, to say, hey, listen, you guys talked about this. You brought this up. How do I find out more about that? And it's an actual face-to-face meeting at that point. It would be a reach out to that individual. It would be, because sometimes it's not just one property we're doing with them. Sometimes that particular property manager might have a dozen properties with us throughout Southern Ontario, that it's not just one property. It's usually a bunch of them that we say, okay, this warrants a meeting face to face to discuss the literature and the information that could best suit them. So I don't want to get too far off topic, but it does lead into brine and some of the benefits that it has compared to rock salt. But I guess what I'm saying is information is brought to those meetings. If somebody doesn't get back to us on it, then we say, okay, no problem. But we do follow it up though, every month with a different report. And it's not like we delete that information at the bottom. It's always a running tally. And we've never had anybody come back and say they don't like the report, or they don't come back and they don't say, oh, you're inundating me with stuff I'm not interested in. It never comes back that way. If anything, we're showing that client that, we're on top of things. We're on top of the market. We're involved in the market. We care about your property, and we care about the products that we're using.
Yeah, and you're innovating and keeping up with the latest innovations as well, in that regard. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that makes sense. And I think that transparency is a big key to this question. And you kind of alluded to it, Mark, is being transparent with the client, and saying, hey, this may not be the right option for you, but here's options for you.
Correct. That's exactly it. We have some properties that have gone to have gone completely to brine, and we have others that have not. We've sat down with majority of the clientele and said, here are the options, and here are how it changes financially, how it would obviously change what you're paying for a season versus not paying. And then there's some companies that are big, obviously property management companies that have a certain form of tender that they follow that I can't unfortunately sell them on that particular product, because they would have to then go higher up the chain to try and sell it to some VP of the business. And I can't break that yet, but smaller companies, smaller management businesses, owner operators of shopping centers, not a problem. We've gotten across to them, and they've been invested in that change.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that some of that change is being accepted. And I mentioned trends and keeping up on top of all the latest technologies. So that's a good segue. And to what are the biggest trends that you're seeing in the snow industry?
Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. No, you're okay. Go ahead.
So what we find is the biggest thing here, liability. Okay, ensuring that we as a company are protected, and that the customer that we are servicing, the property owner, is protected also. Slip and falls are a major thing that happen with the snow plowing removal business. We need to ensure things are properly documented, illustrated, brought to the owner's attention that here's a particular issue or hazard. We at before every snow season, we videotape the entire site. We date stamp it, and this is done prior to the snow season. And we document curb condition, asphalt condition, building condition, anywhere where plow or salt would be touching the building. In any case, we document light pole standards, things like concrete bollards, even down to buggy corrals. Anything is documented and reported and sent into a report with the video footage shared to that owner so that they have that. That's step number one. Step number two is throughout the season, like I was explaining to you, that monthly report is done. So not only is there do you know section, but there's also the condition of the site. So if damage happens to come up, the first thing somebody typically says, oh, your plow hit it. Okay. Oh, your truck backed into that, or this was damage done by whatever. We need to have that footage and photographs to protect us. Same with something of somebody slipping or falling, okay, or something along the lines where the building owner becomes liable. That documentation helps them, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is the GPS tracking. So that's a big thing that we find. All our vehicles, all our trucks, all our plows, all the loaders, all the skid steers, tractors, all the equipment is equipped with a GPS system that we use to track and document. So in other words, yes, nobody was on site on this particular day. I slipped and fell. You didn't do anything. Well, that's not true. Here is the GPS report detailing the day that we were there, the day that machine fired up. the amount of salt that was put down. It's all documented. So again, what trend do I see is protecting yourself, protecting the company, protecting the owner is very critical. So you'll notice too at the trade shows, one of the big things that everybody saw were cameras. Huge, some great companies there selling some fantastic products. We haven't fully invested in it yet, but we are investigating it. We are looking into the different options that are out there. Obviously, it gets costly when you have 75 plus properties that you need a camera on every single one. It adds up. But that will be, I find, the next way to be able to sit in your office, home, somewhere, and to be able to log on to a camera and tell what the conditions are. That puts my mind at ease as an owner, being able to do that. Like, we all have cameras. Most of us all have Ring cameras or some form of doorbell camera.
Right.
Okay. They sell houses here in Ontario. It's like a standard upgraded feature. Cameras on the home. It's gotten to that point. Me having young children, I like that, knowing that, okay, my daughter's walking home from school, and there's a motion detector that goes off on my phone. I can see that she got home safely. Yeah, I could text her. Yeah, I can call her. We all have those things as well. But just being able to see her get home and have that, it just puts your mind at ease. And knowing that, hey, I can log on, look at the site and say, oh, geez, that parking lot's snow covered. There's a dusting. We better dispatch, or we better, even though we have people out there checking sites, doing inspections, you never know. Every now and then the weatherman's wrong.
Yeah. Well, and it gives you a 360-degree view that you may not have had otherwise. Yeah.
Right. So that's another trend. So like the GPS logging, all those sorts of things, the cameras, we find are big trends that we're seeing in this market to help us from a management standpoint.
Makes total sense. You talked about Brian Use. You've talked about the technology around cameras and the technology around GPS integration. What other technologies, going back to Brian Use? Maybe it's some calibration. Maybe it's tools that you guys are using to understand your efficiencies. What other technologies and innovations are helping you guys as a snow management operation, to be lean, be efficient at Oak Ridge?
Well, it was funny. We would sit there and we would always purchase salt, and we would always get a bill from the salt supplier, of course, whether it be Sifto, Canadian Rock Salt. One of these companies would make a big delivery, so we knew how much we purchased. Now, we didn't have anything that tracked how much was being put down per property. And it was funny, Evan, like we'd sit there and the guys would be filling out the reports back in the day, and yeah, 2 yards. Yeah, 2 yards. This site, we use 2 tons. It was like they document it, we put it down, and then of course you balance at the end of the month, and you'd be like, okay, either somebody stole 10 tons of salt or something happened, because it would never balance out. So we've invested into a Dickey D, I think is the proper terminology, tracking system that goes on these salt trucks that calibrates the amount of salt that's being put down. So we know exactly how much is being dropped. And now we have a better idea of how much is being wasted. And we've got a proper number, so that when the hopper gets loaded up at its main loading station, and then it does its route, because it'll go out to like 10 or 12 different routes, that once he turns that system on, it tells him exactly how much tonnage is being spit out at that particular property. And then it records a total quantity, and then off to the next site. So we have a report that's printed out here internally that we could say, okay, on this particular day, that salt truck operated for this many hours and put down this much salt at each particular property. So that is very crucial for us, because for a while there, it comes down to also pricing. So when the contract comes up for renewal, you're sitting back saying, okay, we have to send a renewal price. You know what? Add 2-3%. go for it. Well, when you actually look at the report and you say, geez, no, we can't. We need to get more than that to make things happen. And the reason being, well, look at how much salt we only estimated 25 ton at this site. We actually used 40 tons. So it helps with respect to pricing out the project and looking at what our true costs are for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and whether a company's small or large, but I was just talking to somebody a few weeks ago that, for small companies, they look at some of these investments in tech and they say, oh, that's a lot. There's a lot of things going on there, the upfront investment. But, to your point, it helps you be better in your bidding process, be better in your efficiencies. So it's a investment, I guess, what I'm getting at, that's well worth it as you start to scale and become a bigger company like Oak Ridge has. So as we wrap up today's quick SnowOps Live episode, I'd like to ask. You have two more questions for you.
Yeah.
The typical way we end, and then safety. What's something from a safety perspective that you consider to be critical and best practice whenever it comes to your snow operations,
Yeah.
and what are you guys, I guess, equipping your professionals with?
So what we do is at Oak Ridge, what I got to tell you is, and it's going to be in a couple more weeks, we rent out an entire conference hall. Okay. And we've got to the size now where when you're trying to put 100 to 150 staff in one particular building, it gets to be a lot. So we rent out this entire conference hall and it's a full day. It's called Snow Safety. So what that is every department manager within our company partakes in this. Herman, being our company president, will obviously do an introduction, welcome everybody, looking forward to another big winter. And then it rolls into all the different departments, I guess, or topics, I should say, Evan, that surround snow operations. We start with as simple as the weather, starting dressing properly. Our health and safety officer will go through the proper things to wear. When you first get that phone call, don't get up and run out the door. Factor in certain things, factor in the weather conditions. We need you to arrive on the job site alive and safe and well. Well, we've had that happen in the past where guys are excited and they want to get to the job site and then they get in an accident and then God bless, everything was okay, but they're no good to me at that point,
Right.
So we talk about that, but then we also go down afterwards. We take a breakfast break, we take lunch breaks, we take afternoon breaks. But a part of that is in the afternoon, we go around to stations. The group is broken into groups of 15 to 20. We have specialists in every single division talking about different things. How to load the hopper. How does the hopper work or the salter work? Okay. Snow blowers. We talk about snow blowers, how to fuel them, how to oil them, grease them, how to properly run them. Okay. Some of the hazards behind the snow blower. When you hit gravel, you don't want to be spitting gravel out. Plowing, obviously, with pedestrians, plowing without pedestrians, a daytime storm, an evening storm. We go through everything. We go through every single station, plow truck, everything. Properties that are obviously being used, that are using brine, how they properly apply the brine, how much brine, how to load the brine, everything behind all of that. It is taken, safety is huge here. It's such a large part of our business, and having a dedicated health and safety officer quarterbacking the entire day is great. But it's definitely not. We even go to the extent of bringing on a nutritionist, excuse me, to talk about fueling during a storm, what to eat, what not to eat. Because let's face it, we all love donuts, landscapers. So we
all love baked goods, right?
We like donuts and we like coffee, but we can't be on donuts and coffee for a 12-hour storm. We're going to bonk. We're going to fall apart. We need to have the proper nutrition. So we have somebody come in. We talk of physiotherapist comes in and talks about the weight behind certain things that we're lifting and using. And you know what? Listen, guys, let's not try to be a superstar and use the hand shovel and shovel the whole plow because parking lot, because you're going to be broken down in no time. So we go through every single part of it, and that safety is such a big thing. So snow markers, every property is well lit with snow markers. It's a definite. Salt boxes are all lit up properly. Any major hazard, like I said, during the video at the beginning of the season, anything identified is then documented into a special list, and we address it separately as a team. Yeah, and then obviously we have different portfolios. So at the end of the day, we'll take the London team. The London team will meet in a separate room. The Hamilton team, the Niagara Falls team. We also have what we call a residential team, where the guys just go around in the smaller plow trucks and they do a bunch of home driveways, something a little different than the big open parking lots. They meet as a separate team. They go over their maps, the addresses. Some of these places have keys to gates to make sure everyone's got the proper stuff. But it's all documented and all well reviewed prior to the season starting.
Yeah, setting the standard early and setting the standard together so everyone's on the same page and accountable to the same rule book, if you will. That's huge.
For sure.
So I appreciate your time today, Mark. We're coming to the end of our episode, so I appreciate everyone that's been able to join us live. A tradition that we've kind of started here with Snow Ops Live is to give a question to the next attendee, just like Jeremy did for you.
Yes.
So what question would you pose to a fellow Snow Ops professional out there that you're looking to implement something new or achieve in your role? What question do you have for them for our next guest?
One question that I would have, and it's probably asked before, and I apologize if it has, but the biggest challenge in our industry is obviously people. We find that the people to do the work is limited. Less and less people are doing snow, and I want to know from others, what do they do to help engage staff or members to want to partake and participate in snow plowing? Is there a guaranteed benefit hour program? Are there bonus systems put in place? What is out there that I can start attracting more people to try and do snow plowing?
That's awesome. I've teed it up. I scribbled some things over here. I'll rewatch the episode and get it. But no, that's a great question. Labor is definitely a big issue across our industry. Shameless plug. We've got the workplace study that I encourage you and others to look at. I'll send it to you after this. I appreciate your time, Mark. I appreciate you sharing your story and what Oak Ridge is up to. And for all those who were able to listen or who are listening after, thank you for joining us for this episode of Snow Ops Live. We look forward to chatting with you next month. So thanks again, Mark.
Thank you so much, Evan. Take care.
Yep. You too.
Take care.